Oh, this is adorable. There's a little fruit fly on the rim of the glass. I'm not going to kill him. He's a kindred spirit. However, this is my wine. I'm going to offer apologies in advance. I am unfortunately sober at the moment. I know. When I was at the bar, I tried to get some wine, and the lady looked at me, and she said, Night Fox isn't here to pay for it. I said, oh shit. I'm actually gonna hold this. What's this doing here? Is this an editorial comment or something? Well, if the show goes to shit, oh! He found the wine. Excuse me. Come on. Okay. You just recover right there. I know exactly how you feel. You and me were going to be in the same day. Maybe he should do the show. You know, I was going to tell a story about the bad luck I had with air travel, but I kind of feel bad. Because you've heard the expression, there's always somebody worse off than you. This is the first change of clothes poor Fox and Moore has had in almost 3 days. Thanks to Lufthansa. They loved his luggage. They wanted to give it a tour of Europe. It saw Frankfurt, it saw Milan, it saw Paris. It was on its way to Tokyo before they called it back.
There's a pair of pants missing, so I don't know where they ended up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened to them. I have not had a lot of good luck with air travel. I tend to fly United Airlines. Some of you who follow my Twitter, whatever that thing is called, might have seen some of my tweets that I make about United Airlines. Little passive-aggressive things I say like, wow, congratulations, United Airlines, they got me here less than 2 hours late. They used to answer the tweets, but they don't anymore. I think they have me muted. Well, I tried an experiment when I went to Megaplex in Florida. I went to Megaplex, and I thought, I'm going to try flying a different airline. I'm going to try flying Delta Airlines. Well, partly because United Airlines was going to charge me $600 for a trip in coach class that had one stop where I had to wait for 4 hours. On Delta Airlines, I could take a direct flight in first class for $400. This is called economics. Americans invented that. Well, actually, Scots invented that. Americans invented being dirt cheap. That's what we invented. No, the Scots invented that too, actually. Sorry. So I got on this Delta flight, and I stepped from Raleigh, North Carolina, directly into the Twilight Zone. Because I arrived at the airport, Picture, if you will, a business traveler on his way to Florida. I got to the airport, it was mobbed, just completely wall-to-wall people. People packed in so tight, they were like this. And there was even one man that was packed in so tight, I noticed his feet weren't on the floor. So he pushed up like this. And I tried to make my way to the desk to check in my luggage. My luggage is a very large case that holds wine bottles, and I had to bring that. So I noticed there was a gap in the crowd, like the human Grand Canyon. And I followed it along, and it led right up to the first class counter. There was nobody standing there, just one lady looking bored. So I went up, and I checked in my bag, and I got my ticket. Now it's time to go through security. Now remember, this is security at an American airport. They had to look at every single person, and they had to fill out the A card for every single person. If you don't know what that is, the A card, it's a little card that they give you when you check in. And when you go to security, the security man looks at you and he ticks off a box. There's 2 boxes. Arab, not Arab. So I had my card. We have a thing called TSA pre-check. Pre-check basically says, I give them a lot of money and sign my name certifying that I'm not an Arab. And they give me a line where I can just sort of walk through security. I don't need to take off my shoes, I don't have to take off my underwear, I don't have to take off my belt, I don't have to take out my eyeballs, I can just walk through the security. And when I got there, all these people were queued up in this long, snaking line, they must have been English, just that went all the way around the airport terminal and this way and up the stairs and down the stairs and outside into the rain and back inside again. But there was nobody at the pre-check. I said, well, this must be my lucky day. So I went to the pre-check line, showed him my card, not A, okay, thank you, yes. So I went through, got my bag, went inside, and I sat down to wait for my flight. And I waited not very long. I remember I had a first class ticket. So they called, and they said, okay, any passengers needing extra assistance, you may board now. Then they said, okay, we'll now board our first class cabin. Okay, I got my little carry-on, I started toward the gate. Is this the right gate? Lady said, yes. I said, where's everyone else? She said, you're the only one. Now, it would have been a better story if she'd said in a real creepy voice like, you're the only one. But she didn't. I got onto the plane, which was a full plane, but I had the entire first class cabin to myself. On one hand, it was cool, on the other hand, it was creepy, because I could feel the eyes of other people on the back of my head. I said, lady, could you close that curtain back there? I don't want them looking at me. Now, it was neat because there's a first-class flight attendant. And that meant I had a private flight attendant for the entire trip, just for me. And there were 12 seats. So I tried out each one every 10 minutes. I had some fun with the lady too. I said, may I have a glass of wine, please? She'd go over here. Oh, I dropped my napkin. Did you get another one for me? We arrived at Orlando, and I got off the plane, and I walked through the terminal, and I came to the baggage claim. Now, you must appreciate the timing. As I approached the baggage claim, instantly my yellow wine case came out and walked just right up in front of me, and I just picked it up. And there was no one else at the baggage carousel. I said, this is starting to worry me. So I called the hotel. I need the shuttle. I went down to the little shuttle area. There's sliding doors, and outside there's a little parking space where the shuttle comes. I walked through the sliding doors, and as soon as I stepped up to that little parking place, the shuttle pulled in. And the driver got out. Now, I would like to say that he looked like, the tall man from Fantasia or something. He said,
You're welcome, Mr. Conway.
I didn't give you my name.
We know your name. One-way trip to the hotel.
But no, he just took my bag, put it in the back, and I sat inside, and I was looking very nervous. And he said, "Is everything all right, sir?" I said, "No." And I told him the story. I said, "Everything is going too perfectly. There's something wrong. The world doesn't work this way. Something's going to happen. It's fate. I'm doomed. The tire will explode on the van, and we'll both die. A meteor will crash down from the sky and land in front of the van. We'll get to the hotel. It'll be full of freaks in animal costumes. And the driver said, But I couldn't keep it going because he looked over his shoulder and he said, "You're one of them, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." The rest of the story is true. Now, if only every flight could be that way, but no, it's not going to happen. I spent all of the good flight karma on that one trip. And unfortunately, I even used up Fox Amours. I'm so sorry. There is only so much flight karma out there. Now, I am a frequent flyer. Oh, I know all about flight karma, believe me. Since I fly very often, I get a little card. Now, the airlines have their frequent flyer clubs. There's the silver level, the gold level, the platinum level, and then my level. The amazing, super colossal, silver, gold, platinum chairman suck my dick level. Abbreviated SMD. So I have a card that says SMD on it. So all I have to do is flash that to the United executive and they will say, "Ooh," and they will get under the table and they will take care of anything I need. Now also as a frequent flyer, I know that there are certain things you want to avoid. And this I will teach to all of you, because I think this is the same around the world. Have you ever been in a situation where they say, "Oh, this flight is oversold. We're looking for volunteers to give up a seat. We'll give you a voucher for a free ticket." Ooh, that sounds good, doesn't it? Free ticket? Yes, I will give up my seat to this poor little old lady here. And, put me on the next flight out, that's fine. Give me a voucher for a free ticket, that's great. I go home, and I looked at my voucher and it said, "Free ticket. Some restrictions apply." Oh, they always say that, right? So I plan out my conventions a year in advance. I already know which flights I'm going to take for Eurofurence 22, which is the same weekend, I hope, because that would really matter. But I called up the airline. I said, "I want to use my free ticket. I want to go to San Jose." "Oh, no, you cannot." I said, "Why? I cannot." She said, "It's blacked out." I said, "We'll turn the lights on." They said, no, you cannot. He's got a brother, Here we are. Oh, he's still here, too. I got my whole little family here. Okay, well, if not San Jose, how about Seattle? No, all of the free ticket seats are gone on that aircraft. I said, "Can you bolt some more in?" She said, "No." I I tried everything. Okay, if not San Jose, well, Chicago, Atlanta, Tennessee, Nashville, Germany? No. I got all the way around to the 1-year expiration date. None of the flights I wanted to take were going to work. I got very angry. And I said to the lady, where can I use this voucher? And she said, sir, I don't understand. I said, you understand perfectly. You pick a flight for me and tell me where I can go. And she paused, and I heard her terminal clicking. She said, well, you could go to Greensboro, South Carolina. I said, do it! Fly me down to Greensboro, South Carolina, put me on the very next flight back. There and back again. And she said, but why? I said, because I'm going to make you do this. I got a free ticket, I'm going to take it. And I did. I flew down there, and they canceled the flight back. It was shortly thereafter that I decided to stick to one airline to get the SMD card, because they're not going to do that to an SMD flight. Of course, if the flight is canceled, there's not much I can do. They're not going to pull a new airplane out of their ass and put it there just for me. Although if I get the next level up, maybe they will. That's the bullet. No, we're not going there. I was flying from Seattle. I was flying from Seattle, Washington, and it was an early morning flight. 7 in the morning was when the flight left. So I got to the airport, and the first thing I saw was a mountain of people. It looked like a fur pile, but it was all business suits. It was a business pile. And they were all piled up on top of that little podium, and there was a sign that said, oversold flight looking for volunteers. Oh, here we go. Let's see what we'll get. So, this little man with a shovel came by and shoveled everybody off of the podium. And I went up and I said, excuse me, are you looking for volunteers? She said, yes! I'll give you $600 on the next flight out. Ooh, wait. That's money. That's a voucher for $600 off your next plane ticket. That is nice. It's going to cost me $600, for example, to go to Eurofurence next time around. I've got the ticket budgeted. This will give me an extra $600 to play with. Yes, give me that voucher for $600. Give it to me now. And she said, well, we have to wait and see if we need it. I said, didn't you see the business pile? And she said, well, somebody might not show up. I said, he's going to have to be a pretty goddamn fat guy. So she said, just step back and wait. So I stepped back, and the next person to walk up was a tiny, frail little old lady. She looked a Pacific Islander, little Asian type lady. She walked up, she had a very slow little walk, and she had a ticket in her hand. And I thought, oh, what a nice little old lady. And she started to walk up to the counter. And then the Americans showed up. You know exactly who I mean. This is the American that we don't like coming over here because he embarrasses us. This guy pushed past the little lady and said, now what is this? Why is it? Why does my ticket say confirmed? This says a confirmed seat. If I have a confirmed seat, you better goddamn well give me a seat on this airplane. You owe me that seat. I am not going to be put on another flight. Why do you? Now, I didn't take kindly to this. Because where I come from, that's very rude. Also, even though it was 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd started early. I started at 5. So I stepped up. The little old lady was kind of stepping backward. And I leaned up and I said, I beg your pardon, sir. You do realize you just stepped in front of a lady. And he said, that's okay. Now what are you going to do for me? Because I need to be in this place by this time, and if you don't do it, I'm going to sue you because you people, you sold me the ticket, you gotta give me the seat. I said, that's okay? How far into this do I want to get? So he stepped back And I wanted to make sure nothing, I kind of ushered the little lady up and I made sure that she got taken care of. And I stepped back, and when she stepped away, I went up to the counter and I said, "Excuse me, that guy, the blowhard that just left here, I want to make sure he doesn't get my seat. I want the old lady to get my seat because she's sweet, but I do not want him to get my seat." And the lady said, I can't do that, sir." I said, "Yes, you can. I know you can. Because he's an asshole. You got an asshole button there. I see it. You hit it half the time when I show up. Go ahead, do it." She said, "That button's broken, sir. We can't use it today. Now, could you please just I'm trying hard." And I said, "Oh, okay. I'm giving her trouble. I get it. Oh, just anything. Give it to anybody, just not the asshole." So I stepped back, and I watched a few more persons come up, and the lady was trying to reaccommodate them. And then he came back. It hadn't been but 5 minutes, he came back. "What's taking so long? Didn't I tell you that I had to?" It says confirm seat. Confirm means you're going to put me on this plane. I am not going to take another flight. And I was standing behind him and saying to him, I looked back and the old lady was looking at me. I said, and she was knitting and she looked and she said, so we waited and we waited. And then the lady said, "Passenger Conway, please approach the podium." It's like, okay. Yeah. And she pulled up. It was like Willy Wonka's golden ticket. This light was shining off it. I heard angels singing. And she handed it to me, and here it is. Good for $600 off the cost of any flight. I'm like, so I said, "So what is my next flight?" She said, "There's a Delta flight." Delta, remember them? "It's leaving at 12 o'clock. So I'm sorry, you'll have to wait another 4.5 hours. I said, 4.5 hours is worth it to me. Thank you so much." And she gave me my Delta tickets, and I started to walk away, and I heard her say, "Passenger McCallan," and he went storming past. And I went back, and I saw her hand a ticket to him, and I looked over, and it was my seat. He had gotten my seat. And it's like, I cannot let this go. I'm sitting there doing this. And he started bitching out the lady at the counter for giving him a hard time. And he took his thing and he started to walk. He checked in his ticket, went the beep, and he started down the jetway. And as soon as he stepped around the corner, I said, "Have a nice flight, Mr. McCallan, you self-important douchebag." And he started to turn around, and the flight attendant said, "No, sir, you have to board now, you have to go now." "Yes, you have to go, I'm sorry." But I got my $600 voucher. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my 4.5 hours and go to the Delta counter. And as I was walking away, I saw a young man looking very sad. He was standing there, he had his bags and things, he was staring at the floor. And I said, did you drop something? What's wrong, son? He said, "I don't think I'm going to get on this flight." I said, "Oh, well, sucks to be you. Sorry." And he said, "Yeah, I'm on orders, and I've been in this airport for 2 days. If I don't get back, I'm going to be in trouble." And I said, whoa, wait. On orders, you're a soldier? He said, yes. I'm going to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Okay. I don't know about any other country in the world, but in the American military, if you are given permission to take time off, you damn well better be back on time. Because if you're not, that's called absent without leave, AWOL, AWOL. They don't do nice things to you when you are AWOL. Because we need a way for our boys to practice for when they actually see Arabs. So they use the boys who are AWOL for the practice. I know that's a terrible joke, but I don't think it's a joke, I think it's real. Anyway, I have a soft spot for soldiers. Soldiers really do a hell of a job. Doesn't matter what country you're from, doesn't matter your politics. A soldier is a man who goes out there and puts himself through hell so the people in his country don't have to. That's a wonderful profession. Again, doesn't matter where you're from, the foot soldier, as far as I know, is the salt of mankind. So I said, I have to help this young man, because he is going to be in really deep trouble. And I looked back at the podium. The business pile was back. As the last people, it was like the last helicopter leaving Saigon, and it's like people clawing at the poor flight attendant lady, ripping at her shirt. I thought, this boy doesn't have a chance. Aha! I have the SMD card. I said, come with me. And we ran down the terminal. There is a United Airlines club in that terminal. So we ran up the stairs, and I went to the counter. I pulled out the SMD card, and I said, this man needs to get to North Carolina. Just whatever you have to do, get him there. So the lady went tappity, tappity, tappity. She said, maybe we can route him through Phoenix. No, that's booked up. Maybe we can go through Toronto. No, that's booked up. Maybe we can go through Denver. No, that's booked up. Maybe we can go through Tahiti. No, that's booked up. Maybe we can go through Australia. That's booked up. And it was looking very bleak, and the young man was looking more and more forlorn. And another lady behind the counter very wisely said, you could perhaps try a last-minute ticket on Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines is a discount airline. They basically took an old city bus and bolted wings to it. That's Southwest Airlines. It's not the nicest airline, but it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Crap, that's what it is. But it flies, which is sometimes more than United does. So I said, okay, you keep trying. I am going to see if I can find a flight on Southwest Airlines. Can you do that from your terminal? And she said, no, they don't play with us. I said, why not? She said, well, Southwest. In my country, that's all the explanation you need. You know, if you're driving down the street and you see like a car that has crashed into a pole and the electric pole has fallen down and the wires have electrocuted 16 kittens, all you have to do is look at people and say, Southwest, and they'll understand. So I went inside, I got on my laptop computer, I went tappity, 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 tappity. And oh, there it is. There is a flight, Southwest Airlines. It connects in Denver, Colorado, and it will get to Raleigh, which is very close to Fort Bragg. It's my hometown, that's where I'm going. It's going to get there at 10 o'clock tonight. The cost is $571. That's a little steep. So I ran outside, they are still trying, maybe we can route him through the third moon of Jupiter and get him there. No, that's not working. So I put the computer down, I said, do you have $571 that you can use, a credit card or something? And I saw him cringe. She said, I don't, he said, maybe I can call a friend. I'm going to step outside. I got on his phone, he went outside, and I saw him talking on the phone. And I was pacing back and forth. And I said to the ladies, isn't there anything you can do? And she said, we have tried every city and every planet and every solar system. Nothing is flying to North Carolina today. I said, except Delta. oh wait, could you give him my seat on the Delta flight? Because if I'm late for work, the boss will just be mad. If he's late for work, they'll put him in prison. She said, well, in order to do that, we would have to cancel your flight and then very quickly rebook it before somebody else gets it. I said, nah, let's not do that. And I looked back outside, and I saw his shoulders slump, and the hand holding the phone sort of went down like this. And I went outside, and I said, so what? And he very sadly said, I couldn't get in touch with anybody. He said, there's no way I can get that kind of money. And I walked back inside with him. I'm still going to be $29 up on the deal. So I bought him the ticket on Southwest Airlines. And he was very stunned. He said, I said, don't, just shut up. Let's go inside and have some coffee. So I took him inside, and we had some coffee. And I went down to get my ticket on Delta Airlines. When I got to the Delta Airlines counter, the lady said, oh, here's your ticket to North Carolina. I said, thank you so much. My ticket for the noon flight at North Carolina. Wait, why does it say 10 o'clock in the evening? Why does it say the arrival time is tomorrow? And she said, well, Raleigh Airport is closed. There's a heavy weather system coming in. A huge winter storm. And I said, well, that sucks. Oh, crap. My friend in the club, I went running back. And he was on his phone. He said, I'm on the phone to Southwest. They just canceled my flight. I said, I know, give me that. And I grabbed the phone and I said, I don't care what you got to do. You need to get this boy to North Carolina. What else do you have? And the lady said, the Raleigh airport is shut down, sir. There are no flights going in. I said, okay, how about Charlotte, North Carolina? She said, no. Greensboro, North Carolina. No. I said, how fucking big is this storm? Okay. South Carolina, anything going in there? Virginia. Washington, D.C. Ah, yes. We can get him to Washington, D.C. I said, good. Give me that flight. We'll rent him a car. It's a 5-hour drive to North Carolina. We'll get him there by morning. Give me the ticket. And she said, there's a price difference. I said, no, there is not. You canceled the flight. You must now rebook him at the original price. And she said, no, sir. I said, how do you figure? And she said, well, Southwest. Right. So I said, all right, what's the price of the new ticket? She said, $592. I'm still $8 up on the deal. Buying the ticket, get in the ticket right now. So she said, okay, but he's going to have to hurry. That flight is boarding in 10 minutes. I said, grab your stuff, son, we're getting you out of here. Yo, you're going on Southwest, pick up the ticket at the counter, let's just go. And I ushered him outside, and he was still looking very stunned and very startled by all this. And he turned around and he said, what am I going to do when I get to North Carolina? I said, I've already taken care of it. Do you have $160 on your credit card? He said, yeah, I think so. Think so's not good enough. You need $160. I have rented a car for you. When you get there, my company has a corporate account. It will cost $160 to get a car at Washington and drive it to Fort Bragg. He said, what do I have to do? I said, just go to the Enterprise rental counter, tell them your name is Sam Conway, you're the chairman of Anthropon, and you're a furry. Don't ask questions, just say it. He said, okay, but I don't know how to repay you. I said, that one's easy. Serve your country well and come back in one piece, and we'll call it equal. Speaking of equal, it just occurred to me that my fine companion Fox and Moore, who was so nice to accompany me, doesn't have anything in front of him. Oh, I suppose maybe this country's never heard of Guinness before, but this will have to do. This is Muller Torgau. Where did I get this? How many people, let me hear you, were at this beautiful convention when I was at the Ringberg Hotel in Zurich? I can't say there's noise, yeah. Do you remember the hairless master of alcohol, Andre? He showed up this morning, and he brought me these 2 bottles as a, remember Zurich. And I said, actually I don't remember anything. It's because of these 2 bottles, but thank you very much. This stuff's hitting me awful fast. I probably should have had dinner. What excellent timing. Please come in. Oh, thank you so much. What do I have here? Oh, jungle candy pizza. It's got bugs and lizards and spiders and all sorts of horrible things on it. Yay. Thank you very much. Fox, do you want some of the... All right, I'll have it myself. That's it.
Het zijn niet genoeg pizza's. Er zijn snoeppizza's. Ja.
Look, a candy tarantula. Isn't that adorable? Where's those fruit flies? Eek! Oh my god, look, it's got me under me! You little drunk fuckers. Oh, heck of a lot. You want mine here? Here, how about the centipede? There you go. All right, no. Oh, yes, right here. Take a lizard. Here. Have a, I don't know what it is. It's a baby penis. Here, eat that. This is not horrible, is it? Oh. Oh, what's that? Now, I did the story hour last year, and I don't remember what stories I told. Oh, you remember what stories I told. Did I tell any stories about Anthropon? Did I mention what happened, for example, when I was across the street trying to enjoy a glass of wine and I heard sirens coming? I told you that? Did I tell you what happened with our guest of honor when he arrived? I told you that? No. Boy, I'm going to make up new stories. Well, I guess since I heard those stories, I'm going to reach back in the far past. I'm going to tell them a story that happened almost 20 years ago. At the time, I was with the American Red Cross, the emergency services. I worked in the city of Philadelphia, and I went with we called it the city team. Basically, Philadelphia is a large enough and violent enough city that you don't have to respond to disasters, you just wait and they happen and then you respond to them. So the team would go and we would sit around on Friday nights and something would happen. A fire, a building collapse, a riot, a famine, a meteor strike, something would happen. Well, we were out driving around. Sometimes we would just get in one of the emergency vehicles and drive around to see if we could find an emergency. Sometimes you did. In those days, we had no GPSs. All you had was a giant book of maps that was all faded because it was 10 years old. The fire scanner, the radio, came on and reported a structure fire that was in progress, that was in the neighborhood that we were in, but we could not hear the address. They muttered the address, you know, structure fire. I thought, okay, that's no good. Well, I was in the passenger seat of the van. And the driver, who was a very, very experienced emergency responder, listened to this. He said, "Did you get the address?" I said, "No, I didn't hear it." He said, "Okay, take the wheel." And he climbed out the window. I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." And I grabbed the wheel. I'm not making this up. I grabbed the wheel, and he was leaning out the window of the truck, doing this. Turn left here. And I pushed the wheel to the left. And he, right here, turn right. Turn right, wait. Keep going straight. Left, turn left. We turned left. We came across the scene of a blazing structure before the fire department arrived. Who needs 911? Who needs cell phones? We just need this guy in his nose. So, in this part of Philadelphia, all of the homes are connected. We call them row homes. So it's like house, and they all have a common structure to them. And we learned from the neighbors that the house that was burning was abandoned, as half the houses in Philadelphia are. The house next to it was also vacant. There was another house further down that was occupied. They said there's an old lady in a wheelchair who lives in that house, but it was fairly far removed from the fire. And we looked at this and we said, oh shit. Well, not oh shit in that there's a fire, but oh shit in that we don't have anything to do. Because we're emergency responders, we want to help people, we want to do something. So the fire department arrived, and the only thing we could do was kind of sit back with the neighbors and critique the fire. It's like, yeah, that was pretty nice. It's not like the one on Forbes Avenue. I remember look how the flames are kind of like lopsided here. Remember the one on Forbes Avenue? They're perfectly symmetrical. I liked that one, yeah. Well, as we were critiquing it and just having fun, the house exploded. All of a sudden, our critique changed. In the fire department language, in English, it's called a backdraft. If you've never seen one, you don't want to see one. They're terrifying things. Flames just leapt out of every window. The firemen were jumping off of the ladders to get away from them. And at this point, we noticed that there was smoke coming out of all the windows of the intervening buildings, and the house that was occupied was now in danger. So I yelled to a passing fireman, "That house there, it's occupied. Old lady, wheelchair." So he ran to the door, he pounded on the door, he ran inside. And about 2 minutes, maybe 3 passed, and nothing happened. And I started to see smoke coming out through the door. So I got worried, and I ran up to the door, and I said, "Do you need help in there?" And I heard him arguing. The woman was arguing with him. He wanted her to leave, she didn't want to leave. And he was saying, "I have to get you out of here, you're going to burn up." She's saying, "No, I don't want to leave." And I called in, helpfully, I said, "Man, I think you want to leave. It's just my opinion. You know, smoke, fire, hell burning and all that." And the fireman, through this haze of smoke, he said, "Can you take the front of the wheelchair?" Okay, there's 6 steps, 6 stone steps. So I walked up the steps, and with the smoke in my eyes and coughing, I reached in, and through the smoke appeared the front of a wheelchair and a woman's leg that was larger in diameter than my waist. And I thought, uh-oh. The Red Cross doesn't pay for injuries to the back or the spine or the shoulders. Now, fortunately, they say that disaster brings out the best in people. There were some gentlemen who looked like they were from a street gang who would have just as soon knifed me as said, "Good morning." But they came running up, and all of us, we sort of pulled this wheelchair out. There was a woman in the wheelchair who was
Landwell.
substantial. a very, very substantial lady. And it took all of us to wrestle her down those steps to get to the sidewalk. She was sobbing, she was hysterical, and she grabbed my vest, my reflective vest, and she said, "I have to go back in there. Elvis is in there. Elvis is in there." I thought, oh, I got a good one now. I said, "It's okay, ma'am. Elvis is fine. I saw him at Graceland. He's okay." And she said, "Elvis is my cat." I said, oh, fuck. All right. So I said, I tried to change the subject. "Is there someone who lives in this neighborhood that takes care of you? I can't leave you on the sidewalk. Is there some house I can take you to?" Well, she told me at the end, thank you. She told me, "Oh, is that Guinness? That is Guinness. You won't be needing this. Thank you so much." She told me there was a lady at the end of the street. So I ran down the street and I ran up those 6 stone steps and I knocked on the door. And the door opened and I was attacked by 2 horses. Really? No, I thought they were horses. They were actually Great Danes. And these were the sort of happy, slobbery Great Danes who have never seen a human being before. And they were so excited to see me. They're jumping up and they're slopping on my face with the tongues. Oh, they're just so happy. Oh, it's a person. We've never seen a person. And I'm trying to fend them off, and they're huge and heavy and, 100 kilograms each. I'm like, stop, where they go? Behind them came their owner. And I thought, oh, that's why they've never seen a human being before. This little lady was 1 million years old. I think she was actually an Egyptian mummy. She had the stuff on the eyes and everything down here and the big hair and everything. And I said, "Hello, million-year-old lady. Your neighbor's house is on fire. Can I bring her here?" And she said, "Oh, yes, please bring her here right away." So I went to the substantial woman, and I wheeled her down the street to the million-year-old lady's house, and the horses started to attack her too. Another person, slop, slop, oh, it's another person, slop, slop, slop. And I called these fellas back over, and it took 6 men to wrestle her up the stairs, and it took an extra 2 men to hold the dogs back because they just wanted to lick her face. That was their joy in life. Their sole existence was to lick that lady's face. If they couldn't get to her face, they'd take mine. So we got her inside, and she looked at me pleadingly, and she said, "Please get Elvis for me." Now, in the world of emergency services, the first rule is never promise anything. But she looked so sad, she looked so upset, she looked so lost. I created a mortal sin, and I said, "I will get your cat." So in fact, by now, there was a large amount of smoke pouring out the door. And Mark, who was the gentleman who sniffed out the fire, and my captain of my team, I walked up, he said, "Well, wait a minute." He said, "The fire captain said I can't go in there." I said, "The fire captain said, you can't go in there." And he said, "You're not going in." I said, "Okay. Captain, can I go in?" And Mark turned around and that's sneaky. Mark was yelling at me. I said, "Shut up." I had a flashlight, and in that smoke, it looked like a lightsaber. Vroom, vroom, vroom. And I was looking around, and in the beam of the lights of the flashlight, I saw 2 little green dots. And I walked toward him, coughing and choking, and there was this little, adorable little black and white cat. He looked like he was wearing a tuxedo. He was black here and his white, he even had a little bow tie. It was perfect. He was a perfect tuxedo cat. And I'm like, oh, that's why she called you Elvis, it must be, because you look like you're ready to, you're in the middle of it. So I gathered him in my arms, and oh, he loved me. Oh, yes, I love you. I love you. So I went out, and Mark said, "Give me the cat." I said, no, I got him. He said, no, give me the cat. There's a bunch of other things she wants. I said, did you ask for a shopping list from her or something? Okay, here's the cat. So I went and I'm going down the list. She wants this, she wants that. Oh my gosh, she wants everything she owns. Okay, I'm putting stuff under my arms, coughing. Came outside. The house that was the next one down was also abandoned. And I saw Mark on his hands and knees next to the window of the basement saying, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. I said, oh, you didn't. He said, he jumped down in my arms. I said, Mark, you had one job. I invented that. I said, all right, you take all the stuff. Take the television, the hockey sticks, the stamp collection, take that all down there. I'll get the cat. Now, the window led to the basement. The basement of an abandoned building in Philadelphia may contain anything. And whatever it contains is going to be horrible. It might contain raw sewage. It might contain a dead body. It might contain a live body. I didn't know. All I knew was I had to get that damn cat. So I slithered down into, I was a lot skinnier then. I slithered down through the window, took off my white helmet, put it outside, and I realized that of the horrible things I mentioned, all of those were down there. So I'm going through this. Hey, watch it, sorry. And I shined the flashlight beam, and there were those two little green lights. And I walked up, and oh, Elvis was, oh, I love you, I love you. And I said, that better not be a rented tuxedo you're wearing, you little bastard. And I was looking through the fur of his neck, past his little black bow tie and all the white fur. He had a collar on. The collar was white, and it was kind of lost in the white collar of his tuxedo. So I hooked my finger in it, and I handed him out the window to Mark, and I said, hold on to the collar this time. So he took the cat, and I started to hoist myself out through the window. And we climbed out, and I picked up the white helmet, and I heard a scream. The kind of scream that you would not think can come from a human voice. And I turned, and Mark was holding not Elvis, but a Tasmanian devil. Because from behind I saw these claws going, and blood was flying in all directions, and Mark's going, ow, oh, God, son of a bitch, ow, Jesus Christ, ow, ow. He ran down the street, climbed the stairs, kicked the door up, and said, here's your damn cat. I said, Mark, the dogs. But it was too late. Now, fortunately, those of you who share your home with a cat know that cats are not subject to the normal laws of gravity. Elvis did something of a mid-air arc, and without touching the ground, flew up to the top of the fireplace. So fast, the dogs never even knew he was there. And when I went inside, he was sitting there with his little black and white tuxedo doing this. He did what cats always do. You ever watch a cat do that? They always do the same thing. Fuck you. Okay. Elvis is happy, he's purring, the little old lady is nice, the million-year-old lady is petting the dogs. I went outside, Mark was standing there. His white Red Cross shirt was stained bright red. I'm not talking spots, I'm talking solid red. He had been shredded. And I walked up to him, he said, don't touch me! Don't touch me! I said, wait, Mark, I'm gonna take you to the medic unit. We're gonna sit you down. Here, sit down in the ambulance, okay. And the medic came by and we got some, disinfected, and we're trying to take his shirt off, and he's got these huge claw marks in him. His face was all scratched up, and we're dabbing it, and he was fuming. And I looked outside the medic unit, and I saw the little million-year-old lady running Elvis is an orange cat. I looked at Mark and he said, "We'll paint the thing." I just heard the unmistakable sound of a GoPro shutting down. Did you hear that? Well, if the GoPro shut down, then the show has to be over. Because that's BBF's GoPro. When the GoPro shuts down, the world stops. Besides, I'm all out of stories. All I have left is a pizza with candy bugs on it, and several bottles of wine, which I have no intention of sharing. So since an hour has passed, the GoPro has shut down, the two fruit flies are now sober, they've flown away, I have lots of wine, Fox Aurora has 2 bottles of Guinness, and I'm sure his fingers are very, very tired by now. I think we're going to have to call it a night. So on behalf of my colleague and myself, I would like to thank all of you for sitting and listening to us this past hour.